Rosenstock has been beating drums with precision and purpose for close to 15 years. He is no stranger to the music scene. Ben has played with the likes of 808, The Jolts, The Clampdown, Mad Habit, Dick Panton and the Stone Snare Band, LJ and the Sleaze, Fighting Gravity, and Nick Triano. His current band, Toward Space, is presently out in the solar system. It's delivering the punk rock gospel with much recorded music, live performances, and short films. Ben's a native of Chesterfield, Virginia, where he graduated from Midlothian High School. After that, he received a Bachelor of Science in Marketing at Virginia Commonwealth University. This is where he met many local artists and musicians that shaped his life with new experience and new ways to play the drums. Truly a world beat drummer, Ben has the knack to read the overall emotions of a song and the technique of knowing how to present it to the public. When he isn't playing drums, he likes to play guitar and sing music by his favorite artists. Let's take 5 and learn a little bit more about this thoughtful musician. Ben Rosenstock. I don't want to blow this up. Ben Rosenstock. Here's what I do know about you. So he's our guest today. We're pretty excited. You're an exceptional drummer. You pay attention to the vibe on stage, which is a big deal. You don't just play your part and go home.
Thank you.
Lead singers love you. I know because I played with you and you were the drummer while I was lead singing. You always put your energy on everybody else, and therefore it makes it easy to be around you. You're not, conceited or anything like that. You're a musician. You know how to play a lot of styles. You know how to mimic styles and also add your flavor to them.
Great. Thanks for coming. We'll talk to you later.
This is just me telling you what I know about you just to start it. But I don't know everything. We're going to try to get some history from you. Where did you start in music? Was there like a specific person, a specific time frame? Tell us, where you started. Are you from this area too? Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. Arrestafield.
I'm
So, the 23112 zip code, stuff like that.
Yep. That's exactly, yeah.
Yep.
23113.
Okay.
I was in Salisbury.
Oh.
What high school?
Midlothian.
Did you start music in high school like a lot of people, or were you even sooner? Tell
Right
me.
before high school, which I thought I was already late when I started. I started playing music when I was 14. Yeah, that's when I actually bought my first set of drums. So it was like late 2009. I can remember very well. I mean, because that's like an extremely important day.
Yeah.
Was like going out and buying a snare drum. And like before that, all I had was like Rock Band drums. Like, so I had the plastic pads and I would play on those and I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God, I actually want to do this. Cause like I had been into music for a couple of years at that point, like being into music, like, a 12, 13-year-old being like, I love the Beatles and Led Zeppelin's awesome. And then I was like, the thing that actually changed and made me want to play drums was like, when I started watching the videos of those guys play, like I'd watch guys like John Bonham and it's like obvious, like, oh my God, he's incredible. And I was like, well, I can't do it. I can't do that. Like, that's not going to happen. I'm just going to be a big music fan.
Yeah. Cause those guys are using all their appendages, and the ones that sing, it's even more. Let's see.
And then just to tie that together, then I've watched a clip of, Jimi Hendrix, who I hadn't even like really gotten into beyond the hits. But then I saw him play the video of him playing Monterey Pop Festival in 1967, and Mitch Mitchell was slamming the drums behind him, but in this way where he's flowing just as much as Jimmy. And I was just like, holy shit.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Like, and I wanted to do that. And I can't do that. And now I'm closer to Bonham than Mitch Mitchell. Messed up.
So Midlothian, you're 14 years old, picking a pretty interesting, everybody else is picking trombones or trumpets or pianos or guitars.
Well, guitars mostly.
Yeah.
Were you in band class? Did we just cover that? So
I was, we didn't even have a band class. I went to a private school before Midlothian High School. So I was in middle school when I first got.
Where'd you
go? St. Michael's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, only a couple kids played guitar, and those kids had already been playing since they were like, 9, 10.
Did St. Michael's, they didn't have a band?
No, there was a program through Trinity, I think. Yeah. So there was a jazz band that would come and play for us, like of high schoolers. But that was still like I mean, though they may as well have been, like college age to me. I was like, I didn't feel it.
My kids go to a private school and they don't have a music program. And
Yeah.
I feel very disappointed in that.
We did have a music program. We just didn't have like a full on like extracurricular. It was just like we would have like classical guitars and we would like, or like congas, and we would just tap around and stuff.
But not like
which was fun.
Like when I was in 6th grade,
Yeah.
I picked up the trombone at first and then ended up playing the tuba and the trumpet, and it was structured and you learn. And there's something very, very valuable to me about that, which
Absolutely.
my kids aren't getting.
Absolutely.
Was there like a main person that was kind of mentoring you, or did you pretty much have to teach yourself?
I started trying to teach myself, but quickly realized that all my favorite drummers of that period were trained. Most of them came from a jazz background. So even though I was like firmly like, okay, I'm probably going to play in like rock and roll bands forever.
Yeah.
I was like, I know I kind of want that. I appreciated some jazz and I wanted to see what I could gain from like, exploring it a bit. So I went to, there was a drum shop over on Alverser across from the movie theater, and it was called Just Drums. It was a 5-star, like full-blown professional drum shop, which we were so lucky to have.
I don't think that's still there anymore.
No, they closed in 2014 when I graduated high school.
Okay.
So I got in and I took lessons with Chris Thomas, who's a great guy. I still keep in touch with him. And he was actually the band leader at he teaches the drum line at Midlothian High School and Longwood University, where my brother went. So it was pretty cool connection.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is.
But I would take lessons with him.
Yeah.
Private lessons.
So you play other instruments too, right?
I started playing guitar about 6 months after I picked up drums. Yeah.
Did you do it mainly for songwriting or just because you wanted to pick up another instrument?
Yeah. I think that's funny you ask, because now I don't even try to write songs, but at the time, yeah, I was trying.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many instruments.
I was trying.
I was going through my closet the other day, and a didgeridoo, you know what that is, where you blow into it and it's this long stick?
Of course, the Australian.
I might bring it to you to be able to do. I mean, you could use it as a weapon too. So but I tried to blow
fight off some dingoes.
Learn that Russian bass.
There you go. That's it. That's it. When you wanted to write, when you first started getting into it, were you a writer before that? Did you write poetry or write short stories?
Oh, that's I tried writing short stories as a kid. They were usually just like typical like little boy stuff where I was like, oh, this is a war story. Because I was playing like Call of Duty and all that sort of stuff. I loved history. So I try to write like historical stuff.
That's almost like shit tunes.
So
not shit tunes, but
to think back and be like, I know how to write about war.
So how did that translate to the type of music you were going to write? What was your what type of music were you trying to write?
Well, I was inspired by a lot of like, in terms of songwriting, I was inspired by a lot of guys who were more like folk and stuff. So there were bands that I liked. Once I got beyond just like the foundation of it all, like kind of like the, for lack of a better word, the classic rock and all that sort of stuff. Then I started looking at a lot of folk, like contemporary folk artists, and I really was inspired by that. But then what I found myself doing was, going way beyond where I could actually identify what I was writing about. I was writing in very weird, esoteric language that I did not have any business using. And it was just like I stretched myself way too far to the point where I got uninspired and I didn't want to really write anymore. And then I was like, I think I'm just going to play. I really like what my friends are writing. I think they're writing more relatable stuff.
I was going to ask you a question, but I totally forgot what it was. Goodness.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, music, I ask this question all the time to people I met, to my future wife or my wife when she was not yet my wife.
Mm-hmm.
What CD would be in your CD player right now, which that doesn't equate anymore. But what was the last song you listened to today or yesterday?
Great question. What was the last song? I don't even think I listened to any music today, because I just got up and listened to podcasts before I got here. Last night, oh God, what did I listen to?
On purpose.
Weirdly, that is the hardest question. On purpose.
Chris, can you answer that question? What was the last song you heard?
It was some movie. I've been listening to film scores just because they aren't just meditation music. They kind of have some structure in them, and I'm able to think and do work and also listen to music. Because normally if I'm listening to music, I can't do anything else.
I listen to podcasts a lot, and the last thing I listened to non-podcasty was Pandora Fighting Gravity Radio, but it wasn't Fighting Gravity. I think it was Pat McGee or something.
Well, changing gears.
That's funny.
When you figure out what you listened to last,
this is stumping me.
It's pretty fun.
We spent so much time focusing on like I'm accessing all these like deep memories of like I could tell you like specific days I went to like the drum store to get this or certain shows I went to, and now I'm just kind of like I don't know what I ate. Like what did we have for lunch?
Tex-Mex. Well, so your dates. What your first kit that you bought? What did it consist of?
I started off. This was really goofy. I started off by going to get a snare drum and a hi-hat from Sam Ash on West Broad.
Rip.
And yeah, God, that was a big blow. But losing that place. But I got the snare, which was like a small Yamaha student kind of snare. I still have it. And then the hi-hat, the funniest part was I didn't even understand what I was doing. I just thought I was being cool and like creative. I was like, no, I'm not going to buy like a full kit. I'm going to start with like just these two. I'm going to learn.
That's all you need.
That's all I need. It's just a hi-hat and snare, man.
So many moving parts on that thing too,
And that was the nice part about doing it that way though, was I got really into like the mechanics of it and kind of like diving into where like I started tuning my own drums like immediately and getting really into like watching videos on how to do that. But then I started off with just the snare and hi-hat. Very quickly was like, what the hell am I doing? I need a kit to actually play. So we went down to a used store in VCU that closed. It was like their closing sale. It was called Candyland Music on Cary Street near Belvedere.
Yeah.
And got a set of just cheap 2 toms and a kick drum. And then I just kept building it like piecemeal from there, where I would like add a crash cymbal, add a ride cymbal over the next year until I had like a full kit. Each time I was kind of just like save up money, go get something. Then I could do a whole other. I was like, no, I can play 10 more songs that I've listened to.
Did you ever replace the heads?
Yeah, I got really into that really early, which became invaluable.
One of our guests said that it doesn't matter. He said get a walnut kit, I guess, or I forget the wood. Maybe it was walnut.
Walnut's nice.
And he said, if you can't afford a walnut, get whatever you can and just put really nice heads on.
Yes, I fully agree. And actually, I've been saying that for years with like in regards to recording when people ask about that. If it ever comes up, it's like some guys will be like, oh, I got the best drums. I got these $5,000 drums. I'm just like, why? Like, they're just drums. You can tune them. You can tune the cheapest drums. But then they'll have the cheapest, just crappiest cymbals. And that's the part where I'm like, no, put money into cymbals because you can't make shitty metal sound better.
Right.
You have to get good metal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the best. You don't have to spend $500 per cymbal, but
it seems like it's a pretty
put some
expensive
money into it. Yeah.
To upkeep.
Get
and
vintage
maintain.
cymbals because they're only like $150. You'll get a better crash than they produce new.
Yeah.
Now.
So what do you play with right now? What size set? How many piece?
I've actually had the same kit for over almost 13 years now. It's a Ludwig. They call it the Fab 3 because it's like a Ringo size kit, like the later days of the Beatles where you had a 22 kick, 13 rack tom, 16 floor tom, and I have a 14 by 6.5 pork pie snare that I've had since 2010.
Wow.
And it's still the best snare I've ever owned. It's amazing.
I know when you were
I got that at the end of my first year. It was like once I got through a whole year of playing drums and I realized it was truly my passion. It wasn't just like a phase.
So that's the instrument you can kind of get lost in. You're not using it as a tool. You literally lose yourself in it.
Yeah.
Going back to practicing, a lot of times when you're playing a lot, you're not able to practice unless you're learning new songs. What's your process? How do you practice? Do you find an artist, listen to it, play along with it, study all the details? Because you're an analytical type. I mean,
Yeah.
you like to study, learn the mystery of why everything is working the way it is, and sometimes,
I also love leaving the mystery there sometimes. That's
Yeah.
my other favorite thing.
which is good because I know when you start to get theoretical, you understand how it's all working. It loses that fun. It does for me anyway, just because you've done it so much. But you do theory too. You understand how the chords work, or
No, I really don't actually. I know how they sound.
Yep.
Like if I sat down and started playing the
But
chords.
you have an
even-
intuition.
no,
You
I
kind
don't-
of probably
I
know when it's
don't
not
know.
working out,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. But then that's the other thing. That's what I love about like playing guitars, like learning those things where it's like those tricks. Where I remember like playing this one song, and for some reason always stuck out to me because it was like I was like, oh, this is like one of those like birth of rock and roll kind of songs. Was Honey Don't by Carl Perkins, because he goes from E to C, but they're both major and he's just doing full chords. And I was just like, because they're not in the same whatever it is, again, I don't know theory, because they're not in the same,
It sounds like you know a lot more than most people.
well, it blew my mind because I was like, that sounds aggressive. Like, I was like, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
It's not like pretty. Like, you would think two major chords back to back would be like, oh, it'll sound like charming, like, G to D or something. But something about E major to C major made it sound like had like bite to it.
Yeah.
While not being minor, not being like dour at the same time, where I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Can you read music?
No.
Okay, look it up.
Next question.
Well, speaking of kits, what is your, if money was no object and you had a dream kit, what would it be?
Oh, that's a great question too. Because as much as I firmly believe that you don't need like the nicest, but
I'd love to try.
But I'd love, oh God, whether it's like having like a big Vista Light kit, just like Bonham did, like would be so much fun, like with like a 26-inch kick and like the 16 and 18 floor toms. That would be so much fun. But truly, I've honestly got the cymbals that I kind of want right now, so I'm already halfway there. I love like these like old Rogers was a drum company. I'm just kind of like spitballing because I can't give you like a real answer, like as far as like what's my absolute dream kit, because honestly, drums are, I don't want to overthink it.
Well, maybe not a kit to buy and have, but like it's on stage. Whose kit would you like to play with?
Funnily enough, one of the kits I've always wanted to play is Marky Ramone. Actually, maybe it was actually Tommy Ramone. I always loved their kits, like a 24, 14, 16, white, and something about that era and like that style I always thought was really cool. They don't really get enough credit for being like kind of innovative with how they tuned their drums, how they played the drums, where people kind of like deride punk rock as being simple, and it's just like that is the hardest thing to do over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's
like a motoric, but 5 times the speed. It's like, come on, awesome.
I was noticing. We'll talk about some of the bands you've been with, but that it's more of like an attitude that you have to almost personify the music. Otherwise, it doesn't come across as legit. So I think you guys do a great job. There's bands. Let's use this as a segue. Tell us some of the bands you don't generally play in cover bands. Is what I'm knowing based on what I'm watching over the history. You pretty much are in your original type projects and things like that. Is there a specific choice why you decided to do that versus, just playing in a band, making money, going home?
Yeah, truthfully, once I realized money wasn't really going to be flowing in, I was just like, well, then I don't really care. I was like, I'd rather play like my stuff and like play. And honestly, my favorite thing is just finding people who I love their songs and then getting to play with them and like their styles. I mean, that's how me and Nick came together. Me and Nick Triano, we were best buddies. Basically met on the first day of high school. And over the next couple years, we started playing together. I joined his band. I always thought he was the best songwriter of all of my friends at Midlothian. I mean, truthfully, of all the people our age. And so it was fun because we got to develop together, and like I'd get inspired by the fact that one day he would write a song that, for just one of our overarching influences, he'd write a song that sounded like Oasis one day, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. And then he would like come back the next day and he would just write this really like pretty like ballady kind of song that almost was more like the Beatles or the Kinks almost, or something like that, or the Who. Actually, he was a big into that, but like the great beautiful parts of that stuff. So sometimes the fun thing about that was realizing like, oh, I don't need to do anything. I just get to listen to him play. Like I could play the most simple drum part, or maybe I don't play at all.
But I guess you both had that intensity. You know, sometimes you have different levels of intensity. Talking about relationships, we're kind of talking about the relationship you have with music. You know, people don't always stop to see if their approach to the music, the intensity level, is creating or killing the spirit of the music. And you try so hard to get the public validation, but you realize that, you know what, I'm giving up the whole quest for money. You have to kind of balance it with a day job.
Yeah.
So you're having to fill in the money. I mean, at what point do you stop with the intensity that you have toward music and have to focus more on a job that, quote, gives you health insurance or makes it so you can pave the way for a family? You know, I know for me, 20 to 30 was my time. I can do it. But then all of a sudden you have to give everything away. I don't know. That's just my opinion, but
no, for sure. It's, hey, I'm hitting that. Yeah. I'm 29.
But that's that whole relationship to music, and sometimes you like it and sometimes you don't. Well, yeah, you have to stop at 30 then, so it's good we're doing this podcast.
I have to stop. Guys, this is my last year of music.
This is your last year when you're an adult. Yeah. So
it's wild, but it's taught me to work. Like, and I mean that for both music and just work in general. Like, yeah. I always worked. I had a job in high school. I had jobs in college. I usually had multiple jobs. And most recently, I've actually been branching out into working on the industry side of like doing like assisting with like sound companies, like putting up PAs and stuff like that. So
that's great. What's the company you're about ready to start doing some business with?
Oh, the one that I started with last year is called Productive AV.
That's cool. And they're a local group?
Yes.
That's cool. And
got that through my buddy Max Gottesman, who is one of my best friends for sure. I've been playing in a band with him for almost 5 years now, 4 years. Yeah, we're coming up on 4 right now. We've known each other through, he was running sound and playing in bands back in the day when we were both running around like 2016, 17 in Richmond.
Yeah.
And then he hit me up to play more recently, and now I work for him. So he's a manager there.
You said he doesn't play an instrument. He comes more from.
Oh, no, he does. No, he plays that. No, that's the thing. He plays everything. He writes all the parts to all the.
I noticed the people that own these studios, you know, Jody Boyd, all these people can do multiple things. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, you pretty much, all you need is them and the band, and they tweak it up. So
I'm always so impressed by that, but also partly impressed because that's just not how I can't get out of my head. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. I love being friends with people that are so skilled and so interested and curious about learning stuff. Cause I'm just like, dude, I just want to play drums.
Yeah, it's like, it's about mastery. Nobody really, we talked about this on one of the podcasts. I read this book by Robert Greene talking about mastery. Nobody spends the time to actually learn their instrument. I was playing the piano the other day and I was like, this is a complicated little instrument. You got to push down the right way. You got to know when to push the pedals. I mean,
oh yeah,
I really dig the whole craft of it. There's parts of this whole thing what parts don't you like? I mean, yes, performance is fun. What are the parts that make you crazy? Because you manage 2 bands. You kind of get them on the road and
my own band. Yeah. Sorry, what was the first part of that?
What don't
question?
You like?
Yeah. What part of the music process is tedious? It literally is work.
Oh God. Well, for me, songwriting, that's why I don't do it. I just can't. I can't make myself write a song. It's so crazy to be like, I'm so impressed when people write stuff, and it's number one, like that they can just sit down and do it. But number 2, if it's good, I'm like, oh my God, it's good.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes that comes from partnership, right? Or a because Chris, you write with you. I think you start songs by yourself, and then you don't.
And until other people get with them, they don't
finish it with somebody else, right?
When we were doing 808, you know, me and Tree would write songs, and you know, then you come in and you put your own little ideas to them too. I mean, there's a couple. We haven't even released the album yet, but there's a couple things you did with the drums that made the song sound totally different than the concept.
That was a very fun process.
Yeah, and I think Tree's going to try to put it up on Spotify eventually.
Good.
He sent me all the stuff. I don't know how to do it.
What's the name of that band?
It's 808.
808.
Yeah.
Speaking of bands, I mean, the current band you're in is Toward Space, correct?
Toward Space.
Yeah, and I had a description. I wrote down something, what I thought about
On
them.
your 14 pages of
I
notes.
love it.
14 pages of notes. Toward Space, old style, finger picking country that bumps into classic rock, all housed in a garage of punk band lifestyle.
Wow. Is that accurate? Can that be on your next album?
I like that.
I think it's fun.
It's three people. That sound is huge. And the lady plays
Thank you.
the bass and she can sing at the same time. And we were talking about this at lunch. I mean, the fact that she can sing, come up with stuff on a bass, that's not usually a starter instrument unless you're, Sting or Dave Peterson or something.
I'm geeked at the classic rock finger picking part just because I like just knowing our attitude and knowing our influences. It's like, that's so funny because when I joined the band, like Shayla and David, I should give full shout out to my bandmates.
Yep.
Shayla Hosseini and David Patoon, who are my bandmates in Toward Space. I joined their band. It is their band that I joined 8 years ago.
8 years ago. Wow. 2019?
Little
2017?
over 7, almost. Yeah, this will be the 8th year. So yeah, it was late 2017. Yeah, when I joined the band, they were just like a couple of freaks. They were like, and I mean like that in the best way too, where it was like, they were weird punk teenagers. I was 20, so I was old.
You were kind of like the dad.
I
of the
was
group.
like, I was already just like,
Kids.
I was like, hey, you kids got a sound here. Like I saw them play as a 2-piece, and like Shayla was 17, David was 18 at the time. I think I might get that slightly off, but I met them in 2015. My band, we played with them at a house show, and I was just like, oh my God. And they had like this range of influences from, and like I could hear like the OCs and Ty Segall, and then a little bit of like Jay Retard, and that is the name of the guy.
Yeah.
Shayla was coming from, I mean, they had so many cool like underground influences that I could recognize while also like keeping it like kind of pop in a way where I was like, this is really so impressive. Joining up with them was, I mean, the most important thing so far has been, because it's been the biggest part of my whole path with this, but also like creating songs with them and like getting to play against their songs is so much fun.
It seems like you guys literally are a unit. When I look at those pictures and watch you guys are performing together, it's very family-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
And if you go check your stuff out too, sometimes
we argue like a family.
Oh, you do. And you sit in barrels naked.
That's the part where I love the finger picking thing, where it's just like we have this like like what are we, like urban hillbillies, like a little bit?
Yeah, I guess
band name.
Well, you definitely have a. You remember the Beatles? They used to do those funny movies, but y'all have more of a darker vibe, like the Doors.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of see it.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's not light and happy. Obviously, if you watch her lyrics and see what she's doing, the Shayla, right? Did I say that right?
Shayla. She takes a lot of influence. What I love too about her songwriting is she takes a lot of influences from other art. Like when she writes songs, like for instance, we have a song called Female Trouble, and she directed the music video for that as well.
That's the cheerleader.
That was the last song on the album. Yeah, the cheerleader music video. And that was like, for instance, that title comes from a John Waters film, which is one of her favorite directors. And she's branched out into now where that's like, it's like she has like a dual thing going on now where it's like she bounces the music and the directing.
I saw a short film by her, and it's called The Misadventures of Frankie Fitch. Yeah. Honestly, I'm not going to give it away, but it could be a mini-series.
It really, that was the point.
Concept.
That was the point.
And
you're exactly right.
It makes perfect sense. You guys should really go watch that. Lorena Bobbitt
Yeah.
kind of thing. So definitely look at a serial killer musician. How
So-
apropos, and a girl.
And we used a couple of the Toward Space songs, and David went in and did some guitar stuff, some instrumentals, and then I played on one of those. So that was fun. It was like the band got to get involved, even though this was wholly like her project. It was completely separate from the band, but it was fun to be able to like sneak in a little like Toward Space.
That is pretty cool. I really like the King William of Arthur. It's like that's one of the songs. And I didn't realize until I saw the movie that these are accompaniments to what's going on.
Yes.
And it was perfectly placed for the way they were moving the camera around. I mean, it was a spooky blues instrumental.
Yes. You know what the cool thing about the other guitar one? The other not that one. Now of course I can't remember what the name of the other instrumental was.
I forgot too.
But regardless, it was actually an Eddie Cochran instrumental that they were taking influence from.
Huh.
But they couldn't get like Eddie, rights to Eddie Cochran's music for less than, however many thousands and thousands of dollars. So basically Shayla just hit up David, was like, hey, can you do something in the same vein at the same tempo? So we'll just rehearse it to the Eddie Cochran song, but then we'll overdub your guitar part.
Extremely.
And David is so talented that he was just like, yeah, for sure. And just like came in and like knocked it out.
Yeah, his technique is great. I mean, the
and
way
I love that part.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that guitar part.
what is that middle song? You guys really should go check that movie out. It's a short
I'm
film.
sorry. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have to
No.
look it up. Because also these weren't titled. Like King William of Arthur, for instance, when I asked David what he wanted to title that, he came back with that. And I was like cracking up because that's the name of one of our old friends, like from the early days of the band until now, is Will Arthur.
Okay.
He would just like, he was there at the first time when I auditioned for Toward Space.
Yeah.
For instance, he came to he lives.
So
He comes and sees those places he's lived over the years.
is he a local guy?
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's still alive, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. I
Yeah.
didn't want to put my
yes.
foot in my mouth.
No. Sorry. Will is not dead. He's living in Atlanta these days.
That's pretty cool.
So, how do you guys know each other?
I know him because of a band called 808, which is the catalyst to get Fighting Gravity back together. And actually, we started out with 808. We were playing ska reggae covers with our own original music, and it kind of morphed into the rest of the Fighting Gravity guys wanting to get back together. And then the band got a little displaced. And then Ben actually started playing with Fighting Gravity. He had to learn all those songs. I mean, it was tough, but we had a great time doing it because
some of the most fun shows.
It didn't seem like work with that 808 band. It was literally the process was the fun part. We weren't trying to get it to the stage. We literally would spend hours in what was that place over there? The store you were telling us about it.
Yeah.
The storage area right over there by, is it Timmy Lee Parkway?
Storage unit?
Yeah, we actually practiced in a storage unit right across from where our old agency used to be, right across from Commonwealth 20.
Uptown Alley.
Unit. Yeah. And that's where we rehearsed twice a week, and we would go in there from 10 to 1 or 10 to 2. We would figure out all kinds of fun things to do. It was loud as hell. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. I spent so many years at that place because aside from we started doing the 808 stuff there, but that was
already had the room. That's right.
I started renting that storage unit in high school because me and my dad, I had a single dad, and it was just me at the house by the time I was in high school. So both of my older brothers were out of the house. So then we downsized, and he went in. We got this, and there was no space for drums. Like when we moved to the next house, so I was just like, took all the money I was making from the car wash gig that I was working.
Which one?
Dave the Auto Spa.
Oh, wow. I remember that.
That's had like 17 names.
The one over
Denny
on
Hamlin?
the one over on Huguenot and Robius area.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah, not the one over here on Hull Street. But so yeah, I needed a place to play drums, and I just happened to have bought some used gear from a guy at that same place. So that got the idea in my head.
You mean from the guy at the storage area?
Yeah. In high school, just went and met a random.
You want to buy this? By the way, I can tell you where to put it.
Wait a minute. How many of those storage units have bands in them?
Dude, by the time like 808 got in there was at least 10, 15 tons. Tons.
Wow.
Because like our storage unit, multiple bands would practice because I had multiple bands. So I had like the Jolts. That was a band that me and Nick Triano and our buddy Patrick Hanrahan were in college. Like we would practice there. Or Mad Habit was another band that we actually put out a full length record as well. We would rehearse in the early days there with my buddy Riley Copeland. And he was the leader of that band. Nick Triano was also in it. So yeah, it was a lot.
Wow.
Crazy.
And there was actually
A
one
lot
night
of music.
we were rehearsing, and there was a guy living in
Yeah.
our in
Yep.
the storage area right next to us. And luckily he
poor
liked
guy.
our music, you know.
I was almost thinking you probably can't like have a garage band in there, but you sure as heck can't live in those things. So
People did. It's
Interesting.
wild.
$100 a month
And
for
then,
rent.
Oh God. At the
toilet.
time. Yeah. And then I actually took that experience, and later I lived in a small apartment during COVID, and I didn't have a place to play drums because we were all like, you know, quote unquote lockdown or whatever. There was like, I didn't have a dedicated practice space because I just practiced whoever's house I was playing their band. So I did the same thing. I went out and got a storage unit downtown across from Canal Club.
Did you do anything to
Shaka.
the walls for
Yeah,
acoustics?
I would throw up like blankets and
Okay.
stuff. Nothing professional because I always knew it was going to be like short-lived.
Sure.
But eventually I got Toward Space in there, and that's ended over the course of 2021. That was when we rehearsed our full-length album. Was at that storage unit.
And that's the Female Trouble album.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one with the 12 tracks. We did it at Minimum Wage Studios with Lance Kohler.
Yeah.
That was one of the most fun experiences.
And who did
Probably maybe my favorite recording experience
and you said the Shayla did the video for that
for that.
with the cheerleaders, and
She's really directed, save for maybe the couple ones that came out before I was in the band. I think she's directed all of them. If not, and I apologize, she probably co-directed if she didn't fully. But
she's got an eye for presentation. I mean, I've seen some of those old MTV videos.
oh, thank God for her, or else we wouldn't have any of those photos that we have either.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she does all the photo shoot stuff as well.
And she's been around the scene a long
Organizing us.
time, working with some heavy hitters. You know, like I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
John Moran in there
Yes.
at one point. It's like she learned a lot of her audio
course.
visual stuff. Not a lot of it. She's definitely her own unique creature, but it was just neat seeing some of those old faces. Because Junk Food Buddha is an old band I used to be in with John Wynn, Jody Boyd.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did our album at the Sound of Music.
At Sound of Music,
Did you
yeah,
ever
yeah.
work
That's
over
where we
there?
started too. Yeah, was doing stuff there.
And it was on Fleetwood Mac's when one of their boards. No, it was Motley Crue's board. So the actual soundboard in there was a Motley Crue. So I think
Was it Shout at the Devil?
I don't know, but it was funny. I remember David.
I kind of
Lowery-
love Motley Crue.
You like Motley Crue?
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I
So,
love to joke about him.
but I remember one time they walked in and David Lowery just walked by. We were recording because we didn't have a lot of money, and he goes, "Huh?" He heard me singing. He goes, "Squeeze," and I was like, "Okay, cool. I guess I sound like the Squeeze guy," because you never know who you sound like. But
Yeah.
that's so cool.
When it comes to instruments, you play the guitar and the drums. Is there an instrument that, if you had the time and I guess time to do it, what would you pick up?
Well, I want to play more bass because actually the only other thing I've ever played out aside from drums, like as far as like playing shows, I have played a couple cover gigs like in college where I would play bass. That was a lot of fun. I almost did some gigs where I would play like rhythm guitar, but never really got around to that. All that being said, I feel like piano would be the thing that I would actually want to put time into if I was. And really, I should just stop making excuses and do it.
They have so
now
many
that I'm
ways-
saying it out loud, I'm like, what the hell is stopping
There's
me?
so many ways to learn now. They have all
Yeah.
the electronic stuff that light up the keys and the apps.
Yeah.
It seems a good time to learn.
Piano is like the foundation for so much stuff. And I
Yeah.
feel like it would have helped me exponentially with drums even.
We hear that a lot. Everybody, I think everyone who's sat here has
Said
mention
something
the
about
keys.
the piano.
Yeah.
It's very
It's the best.
complete. You can actually present to a band what your ideas are
So many
in
of my
one sitting.
so many of my favorite, especially when it comes to like jazz, even it's like so many of my favorite jazz stuff is not like I'm not really into like heavy bebop or anything like that era. I love like the piano based jazz of like Ahmed Jamal and stuff like that. And the drumming that comes along with it is so much more creative to me, where it's like I never was into like as much as you could appreciate like the Buddy Riches and like all that, like the drummers. I was like, no, it's way more interesting to listen to like this incredible piano and then the drummer behind it. Like, I love that.
Yeah, a little less
Great
structured
moods.
too than the
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of listening to, what album can you listen to from start to finish?
Do we have time? I don't know. There's so many
The
albums.
first one on the top of your list, on the top, at the top, first one that comes to mind.
It's the deserted island question. Which album would you have on that deserted island? Maybe tell us 3 of them,
Or maybe a six disc CD changer.
Oh God.
or a tape.
But you can't
How do I
skip a
pick?
song. You can't take it out. You have to listen to it from start to finish.
All right. Well, I can tell you a couple right off the top because they were some of the first CDs I bought, so they were hugely influential. There's like What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. It's a perfect album. Illmatic by Nas. I love hip hop as much as I love like rock and roll, like, and a lot of the drumming in that is like huge for me. Oh geez, as far as rock and roll, that's where it gets really interesting because there's albums that are made that are just collections of songs, and then there's albums that are made that are actually like thematic, so it gets very interesting there. I would say one of my favorite records of all time is Miami by the Gun Club. They were like are you all familiar? They were a huge influence on bands like REM and probably Nirvana. That would make sense. And then like Jack White and people like that came along later and sang their praises. But Jeffrey Lee Pierce was an incredible songwriter, and his band, the Gun Club. I love Miami. How many do I need?
Just one.
I'm just kind of I'm also just kind of going off of like the all times. But currently, what's an album I've listened to currently all the way? I'm so bad at these questions.
Well,
I'll
like
be
that
honest.
question, I don't like. We were talking about this at lunch. Can you name a group in the past decade that you can do that to?
Ooh, past decade.
I don't think I can.
I can, but
Weezer. Weezer puts out albums that I can listen to, like their Van Weezer album.
I never really got into Weezer. I'll be honest.
It's an 80s hair version of their all their songs.
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
80s.
I've heard of
that
them doing stuff like
It came out
that.
of nowhere, I think, from COVID, and I can listen to the whole darn thing. But that's the newest one I can listen to that I can think of.
My mind goes so many different directions when I get those types of questions, so I'm really bad at answering.
Well, maybe we'll assign this for homework with
Yeah.
the keys also, and so next time you'll have to perform
The whole album on keys. Give us a favorite story from the road, something that, it doesn't have to be naughty, nice, just something that made you laugh or made a lasting impression.
Oh God.
PG-13.
PG-13. So many stories.
Well, the book will have the other ones. So this is the podcast. This is the rated PG-13. So.
Because you've gone all the way across the country,
Yeah.
all over.
Toward Space has been touring consistently since I joined the band. That was part of why they wanted me, was because I was open to touring. At the time, we were so young that it was like, well, I mean, at any age, it's hard to get to ask someone to be like, hey, do you want to hop in a van for a month and for no money?
For no
Let me
money.
just call my
you have
boss
to
real quick.
Yeah, it's like I was in school, and I was in my senior year of college at the time. I had like technically had like 2 part-time jobs. I was doing Fighting Gravity. I was still in the band Mad Habit at the time. It was a big commitment, but I just loved that band so much that there was so much of what I identified with. Oh, I can answer your question. Going back real quick to the album question, because the most recent album I think I listened to was The Stooges. Is one of my absolute favorite bands of all time. Iggy Pop's first band.
Did you just cover
Funhouse is like one of my absolute favorite records.
Didn't I just see a video of you covering on YouTube?
I did Search and Destroy off of Raw Power. Yeah.
Okay.
Famously, more famous than the album is that it's Kurt Cobain's favorite album of all time is Raw Power. But
Cool.
I think they're getting their due credit these days more now than ever.
Mhm.
Iggy Pop is like basically a pop star. He's literally a pop star
Yeah.
now, which is so cool to see.
I saw a picture
old
of him
man.
recently, and it was like, he is the most, everybody else in the picture is more rock star looking than Iggy Pop. He was the most normal looking guy.
Yeah.
I don't know where I just saw
Yeah,
that like last week.
I think he's had a
he's
spiritual shift, right? A little bit.
In a way, but he's actually been so consistent. It was
That's
what I
good.
love about him. It's like the early interviews. Yeah, he was a bit of like he was trying to like be different and trying to be scary, maybe a little bit. But really, at the same time, if you caught him off guard, he would just be like, "Hey, man, like what's going on?" I just like I don't
believe
know.
you talk
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, he's just a really nice Michigan Midwest guy. Like, really sweet guy. It appears to be, at least. Their drummer Scott Ashton is like, I still say he's like my favorite drummer of all time, partly because he's not technically great, but he's like, he plays with an energy nobody could match.
Yeah. I heard that, going back to Jimi Hendrix too,
Passion that nobody can match also.
his drummer, is this true? You would know, you're a drummer. So he would try to mess Jimmy up while he was playing. Like he would throw all these
I've
kinda
heard
weird
that. Yeah,
so,
yeah.
okay, cool. I didn't know if it was a tall tale or...
I've heard that. I feel like Stuart Copeland took that to the next level with Sting. To the point where they get in screaming matches.
We'll keep it. You want to do another take? So...
I'm sorry, I totally got off guard. I just like, as far as stories from the road. Oh God. So I'll tell you the first true road story. The very first day that toured Space, I was supposed to leave on a tour with them. It was in March of 2018. And again, this is my final semester of college. I'm already taking off 2 weeks of school just to go play with this band in tiny punk clubs, places I've never been. They had been to some of them. I feel like they kind of made me think they had been to more of them than they had.
Did you have to book the gigs yourself?
Shayla did probably 90% of the booking. I think I closed up some loose ends. Now, these days, we kind of share it 50-50, the booking responsibility, because we're still DIY, but we're still on our own. But yeah, at the time, she did almost everything. And we get in the van and we're going to Philly. And there was a nor'easter storm that year. And the funny thing was, Shayla and David's parents, they were both just screaming at them on the phone, like, don't go. And then I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I'm going to Philly. And he was just like, all right. he was like, all right, be safe. And I was like, thank you. And
your dad's so supportive. I remember him from when we played together. Yeah.
He's so supportive for also like to credit where credit's due for being like, he always, even if he didn't like quite know where me or my brothers were coming from in our passions, like he would always just be like, all right, just go do it. Tell me about it. Like,
Wow.
how's it going?
He let you live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even playing drums. I mean, like nobody in our family played music at all. So for me to not only choose music, but also to choose the loudest, most annoying instrument, for him to give me that space and that patience to allow me to flesh it out.
Story from the road.
So we left March 2018. We left into a nor'easter. It was like 11 a.m. We thought we'd get into town by like 4 or 5. Basically we're driving through Maryland and the traffic just stops. And we start looking at like our apps. All the traffic is stopped all around us. So there's no way to get around what we're doing. And
were you in a van?
We were in a minivan. We had borrowed David's mom's minivan.
Was it gassed up at that point?
It was. Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. No, we were fine. And we ended up spending, not even exaggerating, we ended up spending about 8 hours on this 1-2 mile stretch.
Wow.
Of 95. I can't remember which part of 95, but it was like we literally couldn't get across a bridge. Turned out, we found out later, multiple tractor trailers had flipped
Holy cow.
over the bridge.
Oh,
It was a disaster zone. It was crazy. And there was all these cars stuck. And they were going up and down, like giving out gas and that sort of stuff. Like they did have like response to it. So it was literally a full-blown emergency,
So you guys you had fear.
Yeah, but like it was the weirdest thing too, because it was like we were scared, but also at that point we were just like, dude, the gig's canceled. Like, what the?
So they did cancel the gig.
They did.
Rock.
Was
They
it canceled
did.
because you weren't there, or did they cancel beforehand?
They canceled beforehand.
Okay.
Philly was hit hard by the storm, so so basically we just kept in communication. We were going to crash with some friends who had moved there from Richmond, and we kept in communication with them. By about midnight that first night, we finally broke out of that just deadlock. We got out of that. I had the brilliant idea of going, like, guys, we can't go any way through 95. I was just like, let's double back, then go up through central PA, and then we'll cut over to Philly. Because I was like, we're going on this tour. Like, there's no reason to go back to Richmond and then go to New York the next day. I was like, we might as well be up there.
Multiple things set up.
We had 2 weeks that we were setting out for. Okay. So this is the first day of my first tour with them. But I was just, and they were kind of like, what do we do? Like, they were like, our parents are saying we should go back to Richmond. And I was just like, well, my dad didn't say I have to, so we're going on tour. So we doubled back through Maryland, went up through Central, probably around Harrisburg. I didn't know at the time. And then cut across to Philly. We got in at 5 a.m. So we left at 11 roughly, and then we got in at 5 a.m.
That can create some angst. It's good for the stage.
Whoo, buddy. And so we got in. Our friends were so nice. And, they stayed up till 5 a.m. waiting for us. I think we stopped at like a Wawa or something, like to get food, at like 1 a.m.
Yeah. And
we continued the tour, and it ended up being, it was one of the most fun tours I've been on, just because it was also my first. And we went through New York. We did Massachusetts, Worcester, Massachusetts, one of our favorite towns to play, and made it all the way over to Chicago, and then back down to Richmond over 2 weeks.
Wow.
Lots of cities in between.
Lots of fun.
That kind of set the tone for Toward Space, not going to lie.
They're like, we can make it through this. We'll make it through, through everything.
It seems like a song should have come out of that.
Yeah, what the hell, Shayla? David, come on. It's been 8 years.
And y'all were headlining or opening or mixed bills?
Primarily, like, at our level, we do the typical DIY punk band thing where it's like you have a bill, and it's like you either have 3 or 4 bands, and maybe you're, quote unquote headlining. You're always kind of headlining as the touring band.
Right.
But it's usually, like 2 or 3 locals, and we'll go like middle or second to last.
And were the bands, is it competitive, or is it a thing where everybody kind of respects what everybody's doing?
You run into competitive atmospheres, but rarely. You usually just find like-minded. The best part is just meeting like-minded bands where it's like you really like their stuff, and also you really just like their attitude towards it. Then you stay in touch with them, and then you just play with them when you go back. That's the best part.
What was the biggest area where most of the people, where did you have the biggest following, I guess is what I should say? Is it local that your following is more big, or?
Local's nice because we have a really solid following, but we don't typically play here that much anymore because we were kind of like built that up back in the day, and now we just kind of ride it out where it's like what we like to do is not play unless we have friends coming from out of town, and then it's like, okay, we'll go last, we'll quote unquote headline, and host you guys when you come here.
That's always
like
nice.
We have a show in May, for instance. Like I can say that we have it booked at Fuzzy Cactus, a typical spot that we play. And it's with friends Jaguar. They're really based out of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
Punxsutawney. That's awesome.
But they're great guys. Naked Spirit is playing as well. They're from the same area.
We'll come out and see you.
That would be so much fun if y'all came. Yeah, please.
I'll definitely do it.
May 17th.
Okay.
It's a Saturday.
Yeah, it's Saturday after, I think another show.
The other show. Yeah.
The other band.
Are you excited for that?
I am excited for that. I love the fact that there's the crowd give and take. It's a lot of work to prep for it, but it's always rewarding. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I get nervous though for everybody else on the stage now. I need to.
Do you really?
Yeah, I don't know why. My apprehension is getting more as I'm getting older. So it's
what?
I don't know why. Not that they're going to make mistakes. It's just I'm one little part, and anxiety has started to because I don't know the unknown. I think that's what it is. And I like to know everything now before I go into it. The whole adventure is kind of leaving me personally, but that's just, it'll change. I always say, so, we ask you what's your relationship with music. Mine alters too. But
that's fascinating. I don't even know where to begin. Wow.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, but it's ain't about me.
You were,
let's dig into this, Chris.
No.
I would love to know more actually about that.
Yeah, I don't know what's up. It's could be mental, it could be whatever it is, but energy levels are big, and sometimes as you get older, you see the same things over and over again, and therefore you don't get overly stimulated or like wow. But then you take the right amount of bourbon shots, and it'll put you right back to where you need to be, or you know what I'm saying.
Oh man.
Where can we see you perform? You just kind of told us, but
May 17th.
Yeah,
May 17th.
at the Fuzzy Cat.
Fuzzy Cactus.
Fuzzy
Over
Cactus.
in North Side of
I
Richmond.
guess most cats are fuzzy.
We're actually playing. So we're playing next week. We've taken a long hiatus from touring since last summer. We're coming back to play DC next week. It'll be February 6th at the Wonderland Ballroom. Which was really cool because we got hit up by this guy, Brian Moore. He had booked the very first show I played with Toward Space, which happened to be in DC. They had already had it lined up before I joined the band. And so this actually feels like a really nice way of, after taking such a long break, it feels cool to come back with, like, we have some new music, and it's the same guy who hit us up for the first show I got to play with them.
Yeah.
I'm saying this for my sake.
No,
It's,
but look at us now. Here.
It's very cool to be like, oh, wow, we're like kind of, it's like, it feels like starting over, but in a good way.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
And then we're booking tour dates this summer. So we'll be back. We'll be back out there in the cities that we didn't get to play last year. I'm excited.
And then as far as hearing the music, obviously it's on Spotify.
Oh yeah.
And what's generally the place where everybody listens to you? Instagram? You know, everybody's different. Where's most of your
Instagram's
audience?
where the most of the audience follows us, and it's where we do the most posting. So I would say that's the best way to like keep up to date, because that's where we're going to post our tour dates. We do it on Facebook as well, but it's just not as much used anymore.
Yeah, it's so neat hearing all these backstories, because when you go see the music and the people, you're like, you feel like you know them.
Absolutely.
And I love that. So
I love keeping in touch with friends where it's like, even if there's friends that I still talk to that we only met, one time in like 2019 or something. But it's like, because we had such a strong connection, because we've stayed in touch, it doesn't even feel weird to be like, hey man.
Yeah, you just
What's
pick
up?
up where you left off.
Yeah, it's cool.
Kindred spirits.
Talk about music. We're talking about anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, Instagram's the best place to follow, at Toward Space.
Toward Space.
And we're on Spotify. You can buy our music on Bandcamp.
Okay. And then we can hear you sing Neil Young's song.
And then
on Facebook, I think I heard it.
Yeah, that was the link
At
to
first,
the Bandcamp.
I didn't even know it was your voice. I was like, holy cow, who is this guy?
Thank God.
No, it was good. It was great. I was like, that's Ben.
I can't stand the sound of my voice, and that's very typical. But
you had a Southern accent and everything, and
you think
to me, but
really?
Were you playing the guitar?
Oh, that's funny. Well, what's so funny too is Dave Triano hit me up, and he was like, you sound like Neil.
You really do. At first,
which almost made me. It was so sweet, and coming from him, he's like the biggest Neil Young fan of all time, and I am a huge Neil Young fan. So I mean, I should have just listed 5 of his albums when you asked. Front to back. I know. I missed my chance. Now I'm stuck with Nas. No, I saw me and Nick Triano saw Neil Young last year, and it was incredible. And Crazy Horse, one of my favorite bands of all time. So
that's his roadies, right?
Oh my God. Well, I don't actually know the story there. I think they were at one point, yeah. But the band Crazy Horse started with Danny Whitten and in like 69, and like Ralph Molina, same drummer that he still has, and Billy Talbot, and now I think it's Micah Nelson. It's one of Willie Nelson's sons plays guitar now.
That's cool.
All that to be said, what was I saying about so I started my own Bandcamp, under my name, and I want to continue putting out cover songs. I don't really intend on writing songs anytime soon, if at all, but there's certain songs that I love playing on guitar, and I love singing on guitar when I'm playing. So I was like, I hit up David from Toward Space, David Patoon. Go check him out. Yeah. And he's got his own studio now where he does everything with a 4-track Tascam tape recorder.
The actually old.
It's so much fun. And so that's why all those weird delays and like echoing things that you hear, that's all just natural tape delays.
What's that low hum sound that's in...
Something from that.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. And honestly, he just kind of let it fly, and he was just like, dude, it was great. He was like, when I was mixing it, he was like, it would get louder when you weren't singing, and then it would get really, really quiet when you were singing. So it was just this hum.
It was like a butterfly swirling all around you. And yeah, it was pretty cool.
I loved it. Like, that's exactly why I went to him too, because I was like, I'm not good enough to just sit here and sing a stark acoustic. I don't like the sound of my voice I don't think I'm a good guitar player. But once we drenched it in like these effects and like especially like these natural analog effects, oh my God, this is like it was exactly what I wanted to get out of that experience with him.
Yeah, I love that whole.
And what I want to continue doing. We've recorded a new collaboration cover of one of our favorite songs, so I'm excited for that to get finished.
When do you think it's going to finish up?
Very soon. We Toward Space took precedence over that. We just recorded a new song with David's 4-track. So I'm very excited for that. To hear Toward Space is funny because we've always actually been, as compared to like a lot of the bands, our contemporaries at our level, we've always been kind of like going like the hi-fi route, whether it was like starting at Sound of Music or then going to like record with Lance Kohler at Minimum Wage, or even we did a live session with my buddy Max at his home studio, which is like super, like he's got some of the best gear in town. So it was funny. Now it was like we did all that, and then now we're just like, all right, let's go make a little song on a 4-track, see how that sounds, and it sounds sick.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
And how did he find that? Good gosh, that must have been.
I can't remember the story. I'd have to ask him.
Yeah, the 4-track. Yeah, I used to have one too. I've got all these old tapes I've found.
And then he mixes on the Tascam Porta Studio, and then it's fun.
That's amazing.
I love the sound of it.
This has been a lot of fun. Getting close to the end. There is a question.
Oh, we're just getting started.
Yeah, we can keep going. Nick, this is a really neat question. So you got to fill it in with your verb of choice. So
or whatever.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a verb, but I blank music. We've heard in the past, breathe music, need music, use music, love music.
Don't lead them.
Use music is good. Whoever said that, that's clever. That's nice.
Well, I do love you.
I love you too. Thanks for inviting me on this, by the way. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.
So much fun.
Give me a verb.
Give me
or whatever. I blank music.
Oh God. I'm so good at answering these questions. I take music, actually.
I take music.
You take it.
No, but I actually mean that. Not just because I just saw that, but I take it. I take it, and I actually sometimes I take music so much that I feel possessive of it in a way that I think is maybe not healthy, but it's the truth. It's like when I listen to a record that I love, I identify with the certain things that I take it in, and I listen to it over and over, and I want to steal all the best music for myself. I want to keep it for myself. Yeah. I do want to share it, but I want to own it.
Yeah, you'll take all the nutrients out first, and then say,
I want to gatekeep all the best music. No, I just feel very, very possessive of it. It's so much a part of me, but I don't actually feel like I own it. I just feel like I take it.
I guess when people disrespect it, it probably makes you crazy because you're like,
oh my God. Yes. Yeah.
That's what I've noticed too.
I get way too worked up if someone insults like an artist that I love. There's some that I can like understand just because a lot of times it's just cultural.
Mm-hmm.
Oasis was hated for so many years by so many people. Yeah. But I just like, it always blew my mind because I was like, if you go through their whole discography, it's like they have these incredible influences. They're great players. They just got this incredible spirit about them.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And then when people want to hate on them, I'm just kind of like,
yeah.
Well, I'm taking it from me. Like, it's mine now.
It's my music.
You can't have it.
You're a protector, basically. Yeah, you take it and you protect it.
I will never look at that.
You disperse it the way you see fit. Yeah.
I'll never look at the logo the same way without thinking about that.
I love it. Yeah, you've immortalized yourself. I take
music.
I do.
Awesome.
I do.
Thanks, Ben.
This is fantastic.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks again for coming in.
Yep.
Guys, really appreciate it.
Toward Space soon.